Hello, in this video I'll be going over a CASAS implementation overview. My name is Jay Baker. I'm the Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Tennessee Adult Education. I hope this video will be helpful, sort of a crash course as you're learning to implement CASAS. I recommend you watch this only after you have done your online implementation and proctor trainings at the CASAS website. First of all, what is CASAS? CASAS stands for Comprehensive Adult Student Assessment Systems. It's a government-approved test that measures adult education student skills. We are required to give a CASAS test to every student when they enter the program. This means reading and math tests for English-speaking students and reading and listening tests for ESL students. CASAS is used to measure and report skill gains after a period of instruction, which is a minimum of 40 hours. This means that the students are tested when they first come into the program on CASAS. After a period of instruction, a minimum 40 hours, we test them again to see if they showed any gain in those skills. Let's take a look at how CASAS is structured behind the scenes. This is with agencies, sites, and subsites. First, after you complete online implementation and proctor training, you receive login credentials from me, which includes an assigned agency site ID. You can then register computers and proctor tests. How this is set up, though, again with agency sites and subsites, looks like this. Tennessee is the overarching agency. We are agency 11442. Within Tennessee, we have several sites, and they are numbered 01, 02, and so forth. Typically, a district or large region is what constitutes a site. Within a site, we have several subsites, and they are numbered -01, -02, and so forth. And typically the subsite is a specific location, specific building within that larger site, the larger region. Now you as a staff member may be assigned as a proctor to a site which will give you automatic access to all of the subsites, meaning that you can register computers and administer tests within all of the subsites of your larger site. However, you may also only be assigned to a specific subsite, in which case you can only do those things within that subsite. Let's talk now about testing sessions. Testing sessions are the vehicle for delivering CASAS e-tests, so it's very important to understand how they work. Sessions can have different configurations, which allows for different kinds of tests with different kinds of parameters. And these are set up for all of the subsites across the state by default, so this is not something you have to worry about. This is what CASAS coordinators do. You may have heard about a coordinator in your online training, and you don't have to worry about any of those coordinator duties. All of the sessions are already set up for you. The sessions that you will see within any given subsite are as follows. The first is the ABE Intake Locator plus Pretest. This is the session that you will put all brand new students into if they are HiSET Prep English speakers. For all subsequent tests after that intake very first test, your students will go into this session, the ABE Progress or Post-Test session. For ESL students, it looks similar. You have the Intake Locator plus Pretest session for your generic all-new ESL students. Then you have your Progress Post-Test session. However, sometimes ESL students will come in completely illiterate in English, and so we have a couple other options. The ESL Intake Beginning Literacy is for students with no English ability at all. And then there's the Intake Level A session, which is for ESL students with a very limited English ability. It just assigns them automatically a decently low-level test. Finally, there's a practice session in every subsite. This is for students to see only practice versions of the reading, math, and listening tests so they can get a feel for how the online testing works. And it's also a chance for you to go in and practice launching these sessions and getting the computers ready. You can use this practice session for that. Talking more about testing sessions and also stations. First, all testing sessions are specific to subsites. So let me show you how that looks visually. First, you have your overall site, and again within that you have a subsite, which is a specific location, and then your testing sessions live here. They are specific to that subsite. Your computers are also specific to a subsite, and they are registered within that. Then within your subsite you have a computer lab, which is assigned to every computer. And proctors have to register computers to a specific subsite and then assign a station name and the lab name. I'll show you what that looks like in CASAS in just a minute. So again, you have computers or stations assigned to a lab. A lab is part of a larger subsite, and a subsite is part of a larger site. When a proctor starts a testing session, he or she must assign computers to that session before the computer is ready to administer a test. And again, I will show you what that looks like here in a moment. The overall testing process looks like this. First, you have to register a computer to a specific subsite, and you assign a name and a lab. You then sign in as a proctor at any computer through etestsonline.org, and you click Testing Sessions. A quick tip: if you use a staff-specific computer as sort of an admin computer, one that's not going to be used to give tests to students, it's much easier to sort of administer and monitor your tests. Just sort of have your designated staff computer for all proctoring purposes. The third step is to find the correct session, and then you click Start. Then assign computers or stations to the specific session that you just started. Finally, at the individual stations or computers, you go around to each of them, log in, and click Administer Test. And that's all there is to it. A final tip is that you can practice those last few steps of setting up sessions and assigning computers by using that practice testing session. I want to show you what this looks like in CASAS now. So let me pull that up. So here is etestsonline.org. This is where you start all things for CASAS. First thing is to register the computer. So I click Register this computer. It brings up this pop-up box at the bottom, and I click Run. Once this is launched, you're now into the CASAS program itself, where you can do your station management login, register your computers. You put in your agency and site ID, which is assigned to you after your training. You then put in your username and your password. Once you log in, you have to pick your site from a list of all of the sites across the state. I'm sorry if that is confusing why they've set it up this way. You won't be able to actually set up a computer at a site that you're not assigned to. It'll give you an error. So you can't screw anything up here, but it is a sort of a pain to have to find your correct site, and I'm sorry for that. Lab is an arbitrary name that you assign to the room within your site that you're at. And typically there's only maybe one computer lab or one room where you're doing testing, and that's fine, just call it whatever you want. This is a way to distinguish between multiple labs, if you will, if you did have multiple. And I am in Suite 4B, so I will call this Lab 4B. Station name, again, this is arbitrary. It's just a way to distinguish one computer from another. So maybe you can create little labels and stick them to your computer so you know which is which, or use serial numbers or some naming convention. I will just call mine Demo Computer for the time being. And then click Register, and that's it. A pop-up box will say another user must confirm this registration. You click OK, and it logs you out. And then someone else who is also a proctor for CASAS needs to come in and do that exact same process in order to complete the computer registration. And again, you only have to do this process one time for every computer that will be giving CASAS tests. Now the next step is to start a testing session within CASAS. To administer a CASAS test, watch what happens if I click Administer Test. It will say, please wait for your proctor to start the testing session or add your station to a session. So if you try to launch a test for a student before you launch the session, it's not going to work. So you can't click Administer Test until you've actually launched the session. So we need to do that. We click Sign In, and then I sign in as a proctor, again using the same login credentials. And then I go to Testing Sessions. When I click on Testing Sessions, I can see a list of all the testing sessions that I can influence. So if I'm in a larger site, I can see all of the sessions for all of my subsites, and if I've only been assigned to a specific subsite, I will only see the tests that are specific to that subsite. Notice that I have 361 records. I have that many testing sessions that I need to look through to find the specific one I want to start. That's kind of crazy. So I have a filter here where I can search by specific subsite, and that would help me a lot. So I believe it was State Office where I created, where I registered this computer. There it is. I click State Office, and then I can click Refresh. And now I'm down only to 15. So here's the typical test I will use for new students, the ABE Intake Locator plus Pretest. This is at the State Office site. I want to start that session so that I can assign computers and start administering the tests. So I click Start. It'll say, I acknowledge that I'm in charge. You don't really need to change this here, it just means that the computer won't log you out. Then you click start, and now it's ready to go. However, notice there are 0 stations listed here. There's nothing in this list. There are no particular computers that are ready to give the test. So to do that, I need to click Add Stations. When I click Add Stations, I will see a list of all of the computers within the subsite. Notice I have several computers in Lab 2B, and I just registered this computer under Lab 4B, and I called it Demo Computer. So if this is the only computer that I want to administer a test on right now, if there's only one student, I simply click the box and then click Add. And if I'm in a lab that has 10 computers, I just check all the ones I want, click Add. You'll then see the computer listed here, the session is ready, the computer is ready, and it's time to administer the test. Now if I go back and log out and administer the test, click Run, you'll see that the CASAS test is now ready to be administered to your student. Now to manage the testing session or to end it, simply sign back in, or you would still be signed in if you had your admin specific computer. I'll go back into testing sessions. Notice I have to do the same process again, which is why I strongly recommend you just have your admin computer where you don't have to log out. Let me find that again real quick. Notice here in this testing session that I started before, instead of saying start, it says view or manage. View shows me which computers are taking the test, and manage allows me to go in and suspend, continue, or stop the test. Suspend means that you are ending the session in the middle of it. You will probably never need to use that, but you will need to stop it when the students are complete. So you come in here and just click stop, and now the session is stopped. And that's basically it. So, happy CASAS-ing to you. Again, my name is Jay Baker. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. You can email me at j.baker@tn.gov.